Conversation with Africa is proudly brought to you by the Business Crow in partnership with GABS FM. Welcome back, our partners. Let me take this opportunity now to greet all those from SADC and East Africa.
Yes.
Salibonani, Makadini.
Aha. Mulibwanje mulishani.
Yes, now that's it.
Welcome, Abiodun Oni, our co-host from Nigeria. Over to you, sir. You can greet your people.
Yeah, especially that I have a Nigerian in the studio today. I would say Eka Rosa. Neo and Oscar, how are you guys doing? Good morning, beautiful people of West Africa. Good morning to all our listeners from different parts of the world.
Right.
Your Excellency, I say, how are you, sir? Thanks for being part of this show. This is your AfCFTA show on GABS FM, Africa Rising.
Right.
Don't turn the dial.
Aha. Conversation with Africa is the name of the show. Africa Rising, African Continental Free Trade Area is what we unpack. This show seeks to promote intra-Africa trade and the AfCFTA instrument. And your hosts are myself, Neo Tlhaselo from Botswana, Oscar Chiwira from Zimbabwe, residing in Botswana, Abiodun Oni from Nigeria, residing from Nigeria. We are your hosts as we sail until the top of the hour at 1300. And today we unpack the leadership and governance prerequisite towards building the Africa Rising narrative through AfCFTA instrument. It is quite an exciting topic, and I'm quite happy that as we shared it with our stakeholders in Africa and in the globe, specifically also the AfCFTA stakeholders at the African Union, they were quite excited, and they did say that this is a very, very important topic, Oscar. This is a very instrumental topic and a very, very timely topic for the African Union.
Leadership and governance now are very, very important and very pertinent issues when it comes to promoting any agenda, be it political or economic.
Right. And our guest today, we're very excited today that we have a special guest. Let me just introduce you to him. He's not a stranger to Botswana. This is a man who has contributed very, very highly in the diplomatic space as well, also for our country in having to strengthen relations between Botswana and Nigeria. His Excellency Prince Ademola Oladele. His name is not Prince. He is a prince in Nigeria. He's a former High Commissioner of Nigeria to Botswana. And he's, as I just make you appreciate his background, he's the former Director, Asia Pacific at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Nigeria. He served Nigeria at both multilateral and bilateral posts, including at Addis Ababa, at Brussels, Beijing, Cairo, and Gaborone as High Commissioner. And he was the special assistant to the chief of staff to the president on international economic cooperation. He participated as delegate of Nigeria at OAU, which is now AU, ECOWAS, the FOCAC. He was also conferred with international honor of Commander of the Order of National Merit of the Republic of France. He was a member of the ACP-EU delegation to WTO conferences in Cancun and Hong Kong. That was between the 2003 and 2005. He participated in UN and AU election monitoring in Southern Africa in the course of the 35 years career in the Nigerian Foreign Service, notably in South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Namibia at different times. And currently, he is in business working on international trade. This is a man with a diverse portfolio, and he will contribute very highly to this particular subject matter. We welcome you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Neo, and good morning, everybody. Thank you, Abiodun, my brother from Nigeria. Thank you, Oscar from Zimbabwe. And I thank you to all my friends and brothers and sisters.
Thank you very, very much.
You are most welcome, Your Excellency, the Prince.
Yes.
It's an honor to be having you. I do believe in terms of observing the protocols. Oni did that on our,
on our behalf.
So that we won't be found wanting on the other side, wrong side.
Thank you very much.
Right.
I'm going to spare you guys the details.
That much we know, yes. Thanks for that.
Right. At this juncture, let me just allow Oscar to usher us in as he gives just a bit of a background on the topic. And from there, Abiodun will engage His Excellency with a question. Then we continue from there. Oscar.
Thank you. If we consider, as I've said earlier on, leadership and governance are really important aspects of especially this that we want to achieve through AfCFTA. With the absence, that's why we are referring to it as a prerequisite.
Yeah.
If something is a prerequisite, basically it entails that without it, that what we want to achieve, you will not be able to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So today's talk will really center around the importance of leadership and governance as a strong pillar for the achievement of the AfCFTA agenda.
Right.
And now we are aware now that as Conversation with Africa, yes, with our tagline, Africa Rising, AfCFTA,
yes,
we are apolitical. And as we shall be discussing, you'll find that there are some elements whereby the two may not be discussed independently.
Yeah.
But yes, of course, we'll try to maintain very much the agenda aspect. And though we may not run away from linking it with the political.
Of course.
Since it entails also leadership.
Leadership, yes. I think today we will actually also be deliberate, however, striking a balance.
Yes.
Oni, you can take off with your question to His Excellency.
Yeah, Oscar, I like that submission. You have mentioned that leadership and governance being the great pillar of success for AfCFTA push that we're having in Africa. Your Excellency, it's nice to have you here. It's a great pleasure to have an African and Nigerian brother, especially on the show. And I'm very, very happy to be the first person to give you this question. Your Excellency, your intimidating profile says how you have impressively navigated the world professionally and personally, including being part, amongst others, an EAUCP delegation to a conference to World Trade Organization in Cancun and Hong Kong. So I'm sure you are very familiar with the terrain of World Trade Organization and inter-trade organization within continents and countries. Recently, Dr. Okunje-Iweala was named the Director General of the World Trade Organization, which is a great plus for us, a great plus for the leadership of Africans. In a recent speech she made at a World Bank, United Bank for Africa event about 2 weeks ago, she had made some contribution, and I quote, about AfCFTA. She said, I really believe in AfCFTA, although there are still logistical issues that prevent us from benefiting. Some parts of the continent are doing a lot better than others. We can have lorries lined up at the borders. She said, lastly, we don't really have a choice. We want to change the tenor of growth in Africa. We learn more on ourselves and less on the outside. If we want to export and specialize more to add value to our raw materials, we've got to make the AfCFTA work, and the WTO is expectant and waiting to support the continent to make this work. Your Excellency, in that submission, there is hope and fear. What is your take on how we navigate these elements of concern to the success from the governing and leadership point of view for AfCFTA?
Yeah. Thank you very much, my brother. Leadership, as we're looking at it, we're just looking at we define leadership in a very narrow in a very nice way. We assume that leadership is just the politicians, the political leaders. I believe that leadership involves the business leaders, the intellectual elite, the leaders of civil societies, the labor union, the market women, and the market union, and even student union. These labor union and so on. These are when you talk of leadership, they are the leaders, the legislators, and the rest. If all these people, if one is lacking in the process of implementing the dictates of the African Free Trade area, then there will be a loophole. I believe everybody's hand must be on the deck, because Africa needs leaders who will play a role in international stage, as like people like Chiwira, as you have really mentioned, and because there are who will be able to face challenges of regional fragmentation, who should be able to lay the foundation of a new state, taking off from the leader to colonial fragmented state. The leaders who will be able to promote democracy and human rights and implement the conditions for peace and freedom. These are the leaders that we need at all times and at different times to move Africa forward through the instrumentality of the African Free Trade Area, in my opinion.
Right. You are on Conversation with Africa if you just tuned in. Leadership and governance, prerequisite towards building the Africa Rising narrative through AfCFTA instrument. Now, if you're listening to this show for the very first time, perhaps it would be fair enough for me just to, briefly share what AfCFTA is all about. AfCFTA is an instrument that seeks to, to bring Africa as a single market for goods and services to facilitate free movement of people and investments. And we are saying the prerequisite of leadership and governance towards building the Africa Rising narrative. You'll take note that Africa Rising narrative, it is a narrative that has been going on and on, and in actual fact, it is inbuilt within the 2063 African Union agenda. And we're saying leadership and governance being the prerequisite towards building this Africa Rising narrative through the AfCFTA instrument. Be a part of this discussion. 14962 is your SMS line. And my question to the listeners is, how critical is leadership and governance towards building the Africa Rising narrative, the Africa we want? How critical is it? What do you think should be done? That is the question that I'm bringing forth to you. And please do tune in 3956962 if you're local. If you are tuned in outside Botswana, +267 3956962 is the WhatsApp line, or you can call in with the Botswana code 00263 395 6962. We are with our special guest, His Excellency Ademola Oladele, who's the former High Commissioner of Nigeria to Botswana. Oscar.
Thank you. Your Excellency, the Prince.
Thank you.
We really do appreciate Oni is
quite excited today.
Quite excited. I need to really underscore the Prince part of it. Right.
Thank you for the recognition. We recognize our prince. We don't joke with them.
Yes, sir. Highly noted. Apart from, as I've said earlier on, that we may not really remove the political component when we are referring to the leadership aspect. So apart from politicians, leadership includes public sector and private business leaders, as we have just mentioned, Your Excellency, who drive economic and social development interest of their people. What should be done? There is a very, very, if you talk about this other component, we want to check really your view. What should be done to protect the interests of African in general, from the very visible presence of the entrenchment of foreign interests in Africa? And let us be specific, in particular, by the Chinese.
Right.
Yes. There is the need for political will by the leaders to move the instrument forward for its successful implementation. And that political will, of course, they have demonstrated it in the signing of the treaty and of the instrument establishing it and in putting the institution down and creating all the staff for the place to move on. Yes,
that's very
the
impressive.
political will has some other components. It might please a leader or leaders to talk rhetoric, to say, yes, we are going to move, we are going to close barriers to trade, we are going to... Yet they are still with the umbilical cord. They are still linked with the, what I call, they are still this satellite relationship with the ex-colonial masters. How do we change this narrative? It is still political will by the leaders. There are a lot of bilateral connections and agreements already reached before the AfCFTA. How do we now break that link or water down that link to move African trade forward, African free trade area forward? It is these three political leaders that really need to work hard, and the political will, the trust must be established by them, because as long as there is no trust in government, when there is no human rights in place, when there is no peace and freedom, when there is a banditry all over the places, where there is this infiltration of small arms, the people that were ex-white colonies and new colonizers, like we say China, we not they are for their business. They want to promote their own national interest. As such, we are promoting Africa, what I can call African national interest, by this instrument. And as such, the political will must be in place and must be trusted by the leader, by the followers of the leaders. As, of course, they have to collaborate with the private sector, particularly because the private sector is the engine of growth in any society. And as such, movement of goods, establishment of businesses all over the places, reaching out to one another, allow some bottlenecks, freezing some bottlenecks that impede trade and movement of goods and human and services, must be in the centerpiece of the agenda of African leaders.
Right.
Because the final consumers are the people. Politicians will come and go. The people remain. And if people remain in poverty, poverty stays forever.
Right. Prince Ademola Oladele, His Excellency, the former High Commissioner of Nigeria to Botswana. You're on Conversation with Africa, Africa Rising AfCFTA live broadcast all the way from Gaborone, Botswana. Your host, Oscar Chiwira from Zimbabwe, Abiodun Oni from Nigeria, and myself, Neo Tlhaselo. Be a part of this discussion. We will be back as we continue on this just after this.
Join me, Abiodun Oni from Nigeria, as we premiere Conversation with Africa radio show on GAPS FM, as we take off every Wednesday at 1200 hours to 1300 hours Central African time, or 1100 hours to 1200 hours West African time. I host you alongside my colleagues
Oscar Chiwira from Zimbabwe,
Neo Tlhaselo from Botswana,
as we focus on intra-Africa trade, unpacking the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, with African and global development partners. Let's come together and exchange conversation with Africa, Africa Rising, AfCFTA.
Conversation with Africa. We're back. This is a live broadcast. And I'd like to hear from you who is listening that how important is leadership and governance towards building the Africa Rising narrative as we, as we bring the AfCFTA instrument to life. This is the conversation that we're having. And we're with Prince, His Excellency Ademola Oladele, the former High Commissioner of Nigeria to Botswana. We continue to sail along in this particular topic as we crunch it until top of the hour at 1300 hours. It looks like Oscar had a follow-up question for His Excellency.
Yes, thank you so much, Neo. Your Excellency,
Okay.
As a follow-up, you would agree with me that leadership and governance challenges in many African countries can be attributed. Sorry for saying you would agree, because it is a position that I'm presenting here.
You're enforcing it.
Yes, leadership and governance challenges in many African countries can be attributed to failure of political leadership.
Yeah.
What is your comment about this? Because you mentioned an issue of political will. That's why we are now trying to link leadership and governance challenges being attributed to failure of political leadership. What is your comment about this assertion, and what is, from your own view, possible way forward?
If you talk of failure of political leadership, then you have to blame the electorate.
Mm-hmm.
Because people in where they are elected anyway, people elect them into power, and if you get to power or through the ballot box, well, they have to just wait for maybe 3 years or 4 years, whatever the tenure, to really change if the leaders are not doing well.
Yeah, which is the general understanding. Yes.
So, a lot of development also now attributed to failure of leadership. Now we have the problem of banditry, robberies, kidnapping, and of course this what we call quote-unquote foreign invaders like Boko Haram and the rest. Even including now we have a lot we have problem in Mozambique now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We also now have another backdoor inroad of the military into the political situation in political leadership in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
This is not healthy enough for implementation of a policy that is supposed to last very long.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are distractions that may lead to political failure by the politicians. And of course, leadership changes, policy changes, followership trust will also be in doubt for the leaders. So these are problems which I believe we need to tackle.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
We may have a good politician, we may not have the enabling environment.
Right. And while still on this one, Your Excellency, because it is tied to what Oscar has engaged you in, poor governance in African countries, it has been argued over years that Africa's failures have come about largely as a result of frequent leadership deficiency. I think we shouldn't shy away from it even in this program, even though we're trying to be as much as apolitical as possible. But it is important that we face issues and talks that are ongoing head on. And, there has been issues of lack of ideology, the policy reversals. And speaking of policy reversals, there's been quite a lot of inconsistency with politicians. You'll find one president was in power, effected some policies. The next president reverses the policies, and weak institutional patterns. So, even though you're saying that the electorates are to be blamed, don't you think it is time, more so that there is an Africa Rising narrative? There is a call to the effectiveness of the AfCFTA instrument. Don't you think it is the time that Africa examines the leadership selection? Don't you think it is time? Because I'm just tying this point with the fact that there is also an outcry especially by private sector, that leadership who are in position, in power, right, from political positions right to other leadership positions, which Oscar alluded to earlier on, that there is a lot of incompetency. So don't you think it is time we examined the leadership selection?
Yes. Leadership election, of course, the world over, whether it's in dictatorship or in a Western democracy or African democracy, as we call it, is still through election, whether elected or elected. The point is,
Yes.
how transparent, how defensible, if I have to use that word, are these elections? Where are the monitors? How trustworthy, how sincere are they? Because we have, particularly in Africa, we have all these elections taking place all over the places, and we have monitors across the continent and beyond the continent. All will come down to the same rigging or vote buying and the rest. Until we have the people who could stand by their vote and who will ensure that the person so elected is ready to work. We need a worker politician. We need a worker leadership, not just a leader that is going there to, if I use the language in my country, chop my own, make I chop my own. It's not going to be that. As long as we have those kind of people in power, we are not going. There's not going to be a narrative that is going to benefit the consumer, the common man.
Right. Thank you very much. If you just tuned in, because I know that traffic is building up in Botswana, there's a time where quite a number have tuned in. Let me just welcome you to the show. You're on Conversation with Africa, and we are discussing leadership and governance as a prerequisite towards building the Africa Rising narrative through AfCFTA. I'm sailing along with my colleagues Abiodun Oni in Nigeria, Oscar Chiwira from Zimbabwe and Botswana, and myself, Neo Tlhaselo. We're sailing on with His Excellency Ademola Oladele. Oni, engage His Excellency in a question.
Yes, Neo and Oscar. I'm still in agreement with His Excellency on this leadership of and the electorate. I decided it was going to be one of my questions or comments to talk about leadership and followership. You know, it's a pyramid thing. Our leaders evolved from the followership, from the base of our existence. That's when they say the cliche about we always deserve the kind of leadership that we get because of how the followers are designed and wired. You know, so it still goes back to where these leaders come from. And we have a good way of selecting or electing or elect the right people or even select the right people. We get good leadership and governance. So that's that. But my question, that's a follow-up to what you guys have been talking about. But my question is still going to be around and about what we just discussed. So we have leaders all over the world. One of the elements, African leaders all over the world. One of the elements of AfCFTA is to leverage comparative advantage in global space.
Yeah.
Now, so let's talk about a couple of African leaders. So we just mentioned Dr. Chiwira, Director General of World Trade Organization. We have the World Health WHO, Tedros Adhanom is from Africa. We have Miss Mohammed, the Deputy United Nations Secretary. We have Mo Ibrahim. We have leaders all over the world that are from Africa. My question is, how have we not been able to leverage this expert leadership in how we govern our institutions and our like AfCFTA, for instance? You know, why are we still lacking in being able to leverage our leadership abundance in the global space? That's my question for you, Your Excellency.
Okay, thank you very much, Abiodun. There's a saying in our kingdom here that a tree cannot make a forest. but that is in those days. If the tree is big enough, it can move mountains. The point is, we have all these additionals.
That's an interesting saying.
The treasures in all these important places in the international setting. We also have individuals that are even not mentioned, who are movers and shakers of situations in the world. Well, during the COVID-19,
exactly my point.
Remember a lot of people are mentioned in the U.S. who are into the development of the vaccines and the rest. Now, the point is, are the people sensitized to know who is who to come into power? That is the point. That is the reason why, even in the campaign for the African Free Trade Area, there should be a way to sensitize the people, the consumers of this initiative about governance and the need for them to benefit, for food to be on their table, by electing the necessary people to let them know that, yes, we have some people, but back home, everywhere in Africa, if you are not somebody and you don't know somebody through somebody, you are not likely to get to where your destiny is supposed to be. This is a problem. This is a problem. We have these individuals who are capable of leading. If they can lead international organizations of how many countries, what is the population of a country? The highest is Nigeria with 200 million, as you say. So if they can lead international organizations successfully, we have Kofi Annan leading the UN during his lifetime. And as long as we do not let them know the importance of these people, the position they can hold, as long as money will buy votes, as long as terrorism and the rest are in place, creating fear in the people who are supposed to elect people voluntarily and transparently, then there will be a sliding tackle to the narrative we are talking about.
Right.
People who are good, who are in position of authority, who could be in position of authority, who could say, Chiwira resigned from government in Nigeria, to remember at the time, because she was not satisfied with certain development. Some of our utterances, if you remember, she's quoting some of the times she was in government and whatever happened, and when it agrees with the position of government occasionally.
Right.
These are the type of leaders we need, who can say no and mean no, and people will understand it as no. People can say no, but it means yes by buying their conscience off.
12:47 is your studio time right here in Botswana. In Nigeria is 11:47. At Ghana, where our AfCFTA secretariat is 10:47, and I'm quite excited that our colleagues from the AfCFTA secretariat have tuned in as we speak. We would like to welcome you as well and acknowledge all Africans who are tuned in and all our global partners. We are left with about 10 minutes, and I would like to kindly request my colleagues and our Excellency to try and navigate through the few minutes that we are left with, because I know that there are quite a number of areas that are untouched. Oni, you're going to have to do the summary of Nigeria, the economic.
Okay. I wanted to have a follow-up if I have a minute, but
yeah,
sure
I'll give you that minute. I'll give you that minute. Let me just pass by with this one that at 12:54, we're going to have to do the African market zone, which is where Oni gets to share in 3 minutes a brief about Nigeria competence. You can do a very brief.
200 million people, 200 million market in 3 minutes.
Well, you'll just do the intro, and then we can continue on the update in the next episode. You can just do an intro like last time. So we have to go for a short commercial break. When we come back on, you'll do your follow-up question, and we continue in our 7 minutes that is left.
All right.
Catch Scaftini on the Quiet Riot Show with Joe, exclusive to Gabs FM, every Saturday and Sunday at 12:15. Proudly sponsored by Sefalana Saruna.
Tune in to Gabs FM every Wednesday morning at 6:45 to listen to Financially More Successful, brought to you by SCI Wealth in partnership with Hori Capital.
Join me, Neo Tlhaselo. I am your host from Botswana as we take off every Wednesdays at 1200 to 1300 hours Central Africa time or 1100 to 1200 hours West Africa time. I host you alongside my colleagues
Abiodun Oni from Nigeria,
Oscar Chiwira from Zimbabwe.
as we focus on intra-Africa trade, unpacking the African Continental Free Trade Area with African and global development partners. Let's come together and exchange. Conversation with Africa. Africa Rising, AfCFTA. Leadership and governance, prerequisite towards building the Africa Rising narrative through AfCFTA instrument. We are at our very last segment. Over to you, Oni, and I'll just advise that we all try to be brief so that we try to just engage quite a number of areas towards the subject matter before we close. Oni?
Excellency, it will just be because of lack of time. I'll just make it like a contribution on observation. What I've noticed is that people with knowledge experts, like technical guys, the elite, they're the ones that don't show up for political positions, and people will end up getting to vote and elect people that show up. At the end of it, I know there are a lot of complications to navigate the political arena, but it's people that get to show up, that people get to vote for. So I just wanted to have some contribution to that, which I think is a lot of reasons why we don't have a lot of good hands on deck where and when we need them for governance and leadership. So for the Nigerian market, will we go ahead and talk about the Nigerian market?
Not now. Maybe I'll just give you a signal on it a few minutes from now. Let me give it to Oscar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Neo. Your Excellence, the Prince.
Yeah.
I'll make reference to something that I may refer to as the cancer of African politics. When you look at to enhance and sustain good corporate governance practices, some governments develop some comprehensive compliance mechanisms. During current claims about corruption, that I'm referring to as the cancer of African politics, and the leadership levels in many African countries, talk us through your own understanding. It may be from the Nigerian side perspective, or since you are looking at after the Africa market or arena in general.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Oscar. Let me not just say that the Africans have been commodified and monetized by the politicians. Everything goes with money. And they have been bought. They have bought their conscience. No matter, it will take some time before you can see the electorate changing. Because an hungry man is an angry man. If there's nothing on their table and somebody comes with little few naira or few dollars to cajole them to vote, they say, what is my problem? What if I vote or I don't vote? After all, they will win. To take this money for. So that's the element of being commodified and monetized by the political leadership is the bane of African problems all over the continent. And that narrative has to change. And it will take you don't see egos taking music lessons or flight lessons from chicken. Somebody who has to do that have to be brave. Have to even ready to sacrifice his life if that change has to take place.
Yes, Your Excellency. Not to interject. You are saying that this cancer of African politics, it will take long in terms of trying to find some ways to deal with it. Yet, if you look at AfCFTA, it has got some very short-term agenda, short-term goals.
Yeah.
How then now do we align the two?
Mm-hmm.
As long as there is a submission of, how do I say it? National state have to really leave their, more or less upgrade their policy to suit the purpose of African free trade area. There are areas where you have to allow free border flow, trade, ensure that the national laws are subject to that law of, because it's for general interest of all the Africans. As long as we are not having this, we have to break the umbilical cord with the extra-colonial masters or extra trade forces, and we like COVID-19 really taught us lesson. We looked inward and we're able to manage so many things. And we can see that COVID did not. Africa is one of the least affected continents in the world. That pandemic gave us the opportunity to really know that yes, we can do it. We can change our narrative because it's only what you have that you can give.
Right. Your Excellency, the economic domain has been in Africa has been characterized by huge external debt. There's huge external debt overhang, net capital flight, disinvestments, collapse of social infrastructure, food security issues, the food crisis. Is this not a result of inadequate preparation of, leadership that assures the responsibility to govern the countries? I mean, we are talking of facts here, of the huge external debts within the economic space. What are we saying about this? Yet we are saying we do want to build the AfCFTA with the short-term goals that Oscar has already alluded to. Does this not prove a deficiency within the leadership and governance spectrum?
Yes, the donor countries who want to intimidate us with the debt and use it to really cage us to work, to do their things in their own way. Yes, we can.
Okay, there's a caller, if I may interrupt. There's a caller. Let me just... you're live on Conversation with Africa.
Hello?
Hello, yes, you're live, sir. You are live. Would you want to contribute? You're live on GAPS FM. Okay, all right, thanks. Right, you can continue, Excellency. We're left with a minute.
We need to have to fix the infrastructure decay, which African Free Trade Initiative is addressing. We need to make sure that there's freedom of movement of people across the borders and the freedom of goods and services at the same time. We need to encourage people-to-people relationships. Like you remember years back when we discussed something like this, I told you that there's nothing stopping the Zimbabwe diamond to be polished in Nigeria, because Nigeria has the largest market for this consumer for consumption. We can do all these things. We can refine Nigeria or somewhere around the neighborhood, sending it to Europe. All these things can work for us and work for the success of African Free Trade Area Initiative.
Right. Our time is quite limited, 12:58, and we have to hand over. Oni, would you like to contribute in 30 seconds as we close off? I think the Nigeria market will get to learn about it so that we give it more justice in the next episode, which is on the 28th. Would you like to shortly conclude for us?
So we'll leave the Nigerian market for next time?
Yeah, you can just conclude for us because we have to hand over in 30 seconds.
Okay. So thank you, Your Excellency, for your contribution today. And Neil and Oscar, you guys, I believe we have done justice as much as we could. I just like to add that what we need for governance and leadership to be more effective and changing Africa, we need non-politicians to get into the fray of politics. That way, we're able to bring knowledge and expertise from the private, from the private sector into the political space. That way, I think we're going to have a lot of changes in political arena that will help us push through the AfCFTA policies.
Right. Thank you very much, my co-host Oscar and Abiodun. Thank you, Your Excellency. We shall continue on this topic. It is quite very broad. We didn't touch on quite a number of aspects, and shall talk to my two colleagues, my co-hosts, if we should do a part 2 of it. And we make your return at some time. I'd like to hand over and just say, despite over years of political independence, Africa's aspirations and hopes remain today largely unfulfilled. Those are the sentiments by quite a number of Africans. The leadership question has become a recurring issue in the discourse on the African project. It's Conversation with Africa, Africa Rising, AfCFTA. It's a good afternoon from us.
Conversation with Africa was proudly brought to you by the Business Crow in partnership with GABS FM.